Hi everyone, we're just gonna wait for more people to join. Hi Ruba, we have a new person with us today. Okay, I guess it's a good time for me to start. So, welcome everyone to episode 7 of Ithraa's At Home program. I'm very excited to be hosting again tonight, especially that we're going to be talking about something a bit different from what we talked about last time, and we have a special guest, which I will introduce later on. So again, just as a reminder, we do have these episodes every Monday and Thursday night. Every Monday night it's in Arabic, and every Thursday it's in English. And again, the purpose of this live is really to connect with you guys and for you guys to connect with us during this quarantine time, if you want, or semi-quarantine time, and really like share inspiring stories, help each other, support each other, try to motivate each other. So first, I'm just going to talk a bit about Ithraa before I introduce my guest. Ithraa is a center for training and coaching that empowers people, communities, and organizations to understand and strengthen their social emotional health, build resilience, and make sustainable changes in their lives. The aim is really to help people reach their full potential on both a personal and a professional level. And I really do enjoy, I'm so glad that I'm part of Ithraa's team, and I really do enjoy how its courses take you on a journey of personal discovery, growth, and awareness, where you really start understanding yourself, understanding your patterns, understanding the people around you, how to communicate, and how to really advance your relationships into healthier ones. So tonight we have a very special guest. Her name is Lynn Malkawi. Just to give you a brief introduction about Lynn, she's a UTA graduate and holds an MBA in business. She completed the program at Harvard University titled Leadership, Organization, and Action Leading Change. Lynn worked in Fortune 500 companies and transitioned in working in the social development field. She's an op-ed writer, which means that she writes a lot of articles in the opinion section in both Al Ghad newspaper as well as the Jordan Times. And her writings focus on political, economical, and social issues and change in Jordan. And then she brought her passion into life by creating this amazing NGO. It's called Wasel, for awareness and education. So I'm going to be inviting Lynn right now to this live. So she'll be joining us in a few seconds. Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for everybody who's watching. Ramadan Kareem to everybody.
It's exciting. Hopefully we have more people joining in as well. So tell us, how are you? How has the quarantine been so far?
The quarantine's been fun. New hobbies. Learned how to cook. Been picking up walks and transitioning a lot of the work that we do online due to the situation that we're in. So I'm trying to make the best of it.
Exactly. I feel like everything transitioned online, so it's the case for everyone, but I'm sure you're making the most out of it.
Trying to make the most out of it, reading some new books. So it's exciting.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So, Lynn, tell us more about yourself.
Well, thank you first of all for the introduction. As you mentioned, I graduated from the University of Texas at Arlington with a business management degree. I always had a passion towards development, but I wanted to study it in an economic fact, then get into the social aspect of it. After graduating, I worked in different Fortune 500 companies in insurance and financial services in the US for a few years. Then I decided to come back to Jordan and pursue my passion towards development. When I first came here, I worked in a few NGOs to try to get the feel of the NGO world, which is quite different from any kind of consulting or financial services work. and it was very interesting, definitely a huge learning experience. I also parallel the work that I do on ground with writings, as you mentioned, in the Jordan Times and the Al-Ghad newspaper. I did complete a program in Harvard. The program was centered around community organizing and grassroots approach. It was very interesting. It taught me how to develop grassroots-led campaigns and youth-led campaigns. It was very interesting. Yeah. What else? I'm also a global shaper with the World Economic Forum, and I'm
Global shaper?
a global shaper, correct.
What does
So,
that mean?
so a global shaper, the World Economic Forum usually chooses around 30 youth in each area of the world to do any kind of progressive movements, progressive work, voluntary work regarding economic development and social development in the country. So I'm part of that with a group of very inspirational youth. I'm also a member of the General Assembly in the Jordan Economic Forum. So that's
Wow.
the things.
You do a lot of diverse things. You're all over, but that's amazing to hear.
Yeah,
It
you
makes me think, yeah,
know,
about you mentioned that. Sorry, I think I'll be up there.
at the root of what I do, it all boils down into development. So I enter development from three main aspects: social development, political development, and economic development. So whether it's the work that we do at Wasel or the different organization I'm part of, it all stems down to development at the end.
That's amazing to hear. And it's interesting that you mentioned how you were working in Fortune 500 companies in the financial sector, especially like corporate work, and then you transitioned into social development. So what would you say, like, what's the reason for your transition into that field?
So as I mentioned, I always knew I wanted to work into development, but I wanted to get the structure of a Fortune 500 company, learn how it develops impact into the social work arena. Because a lot of the times, let's say NGOs or public work, if organized more properly, impact can be shown in a better way. So that's what I wanted to do, is get the structure of working in a corporate environment, learn how the economics of development work coming from a corporate environment, and then transitioning that into working for.
That makes sense, and that's a beautiful transition. You got to see how it was in the corporate. You got like both perspectives, I guess, which is great.
That's,
Um,
and many people, when they think of NGOs, they just think of social work. But NGOs have a lot of business aspects also. You have
right.
employees, you have salaries, you have rent. It operates like a small business. So it was
Yeah.
very hard to get the structure of a corporate environment and transition that into working in social work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. So you are the director and founder of Wasel, right?
That's correct.
And can you tell us more about like what inspired you to create this NGO?
Definitely. Thank you for your question. So Wasl, from its name, it means connection. And if anybody notices the logo is in gray and it has hands that are connecting to each other. So it's
Yeah,
different gray because we believe in Wasl that there's no black and white. And we try to persuade people into that middle gray area ground where we bridge gaps and bring people together. As far as Wasl, what brought up the idea, living in Jordan after I came from the US and working in different NGOs, I noticed that there's a certain area that I wanted to work on that there wasn't particularly work being done in the model that I envisioned. So I wanted to create a model that broke down the barrier where there's always a strong party that's always giving and a weak party that's always receiving. Whenever you think
right.
of voluntary work or youth work anywhere in the world, do you think of somebody that's strong, that's giving, and somebody weak, that's receiving? But in Wasl, we believe that the most important aspect of learning is learning from each other, not necessarily learning from a book. And learning is a two-way street. So that's why I decided to develop Wasl, which works under that model of equality and shared learning. And we can talk more about Wasl's programs moving forward in the interview.
I think it's like I honestly love what you just said about like bridging the gap also, and like there's this gap and then you try to create the needs to bridge between like people from different like backgrounds and sectors and
Absolutely, absolutely. So we don't see any party as weak. We see that each party in the circle, just like Wasel's logo, each party is a giving party through the development methodology that we work in.
and as you said, learning from each other is
Ab-
very important instead of like learning from a lecture or learning from a book, like
Absolutely.
integrating people together.
Integrating people together and putting people on the same level playing field.
Yeah, that's so important. I believe that's amazing, honestly.
Absolutely, because when you look at development also across the world, it's like a map. How there's each country, and usually each person works or is more comfortable with working with people that are like them.
Similar, like-minded people. Yeah.
Exactly. We want to break that barrier. In reality, in society, whether you work in a corporate environment, in an NGO, or in public service, there's a group of people that come from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds, and that have different beliefs. And we want to
Right.
create a model that allows those different people to integrate um, and to develop things that can help the community as a whole.
Right. That makes sense. And focus on what's really important instead of where they come from. So which is very beautiful.
Yes, and as
Um,
more about Wasel's program, you'll be able to see more how that translates onto the ground.
so speaking of Wasel as an NGO, what would you say, what does it primarily focus on? Can you tell us more about the initiatives, the programs, more about the NGO in general?
Absolutely. So Wasel it was founded in June of 2018. Wasel focuses on three primary aspects. We have a citizenship engagement program, which is centered around political engagement of youth. We have our شبك وبادر program, which is targeted around social engagement of youth. And we have our شبك وابتكر program, which is centered around economic development of youth. So there are three aspects. We work on political, social, and economic development.
So can you tell us about your favorite, like, let's say program or initiative, more about like details about that? Like, how does that come to life? How is that really helping our society in terms of social, economic, and development?
Absolutely. So all of the programs are very dear and close to my heart. I think each of them fits in a way to achieve Wasel's vision of inclusion. So I'm going to give an example of one of our programs. One of our programs is called شبك وبادر. In شبك وبادر, we connect private schools in Jordan to public schools in Jordan. So instead of the traditional sense where there's a private school that's giving a public school or donating, we put them on a level playing field. We choose 15 students from each school. And it's a 1-year program where each of these students start to study in each other's schools for one academic year after hours from about 3 times a week. So you would have the 15 students going to the from the public school, going to the private school and meeting with them there and engaging in sessions there. Then you would have people from the private school going to the public school and engaging with sessions there. During these sessions where we have both these students, private and public school students, we teach them Wasel's methodology on how to launch social. We teach them how to do SWOT analysis, how to write proposals, how to fund for their projects, all these different things, how to do root cause problem solving. We divide them into 5 teams that operate like a small business. So you would have like a finance team, a logistics team, a partnerships team, a communication team, and a monitoring and evaluation team.
Wow.
And all these teams, they start working for a project that benefits the community as a whole. So as you can see, we've brought 2 segments of the community that on a day-to-day level might have not integrated together at all. They might have
Right.
spent life not integrating together and having preconceived notions about each other. In this program, we bring them together on a level playing field. They start living in each other's environments. When they start living in each other's environments, they start to humanize each other. They start to develop empathy for each other. They start to understand each other's problems and realize that we are all one. as a society. And after they make that realization through the continuous learning that they do, they launch a project that solves an issue that they both face as Jordanian youth.
Okay, so it's like they're working on a shared common goal. So they start working together.
Absolutely, absolutely. They work on different issues. It could be related to pursuing careers. It could be relating to advocate for environmental changes. It could be related to awareness programs regarding financial literacy, different things. So at the end of the day, these youth from different socioeconomic backgrounds, they face the same issues, a lot of the same issues. But the one thing that I want to see coming out of this program is that I love to see is the genuine relationships and friendships and level of respect that these individuals end up having for each other. And that's the most important thing for me. And also, they learn a lot of life skills that many of us learned very late in life. They learn how to apply for funding. I mean, the last academic year, students applied for about $2,000 in funding. They applied for it using the methodology that we taught them. I mean, there are organizations in Jordan that are not being able to get grants for this amount. So when you're talking about young kids, aged 15 to 18, applying and getting these grants to work on projects, it's extremely amazing. When you watch them monitoring and evaluating their programs and their projects, when you watch them communicating with different partners in the community to develop these projects, governmental partners, partners from the private sector, it's really, truly amazing to see. So
Yeah,
that's
like
of one of the programs that we have.
that's honestly such an amazing and rich program in so many ways. I mean, you're watching these students grow together, grow on a personal, professional, and like a personality like way. So that's amazing.
And they both learn so much from each other, Sarah. They both learn so much from each other, whether it be bettering their languages. Some students are better in English language, some students are better in Arabic language. They work together. They communicate the needs of their communities. It's really amazing.
Right. And at the end of the day, they come to realize that they're very similar because people a lot of the times focus on things that are periphery, things that are like a bit like superficial, if you want. But it's
Absolutely.
beautiful having them connect and really come to work on issues that are similar and things that can work together.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's one amazing program, and that's the program that we work with the youngest age group on. So this age group, as I mentioned, are youth between ages of 15 to 18.
Okay.
Other programs that we have target an older demographic, let's say 18 to 28.
I
So with
see.
this age group, it's a very sensitive age group, and it's an age group that you can have high impact on. So that's also very interesting.
So yeah, I'm trying to see. We have a question from Fifi. Please share an example of a project managed by Wasel Youth.
Absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to tell you one of the last projects that we did this year. So there was a project focused on financial literacy and insurance awareness. So Sarah, you might agree with me that many of us, we grew up and we only learned how to deposit a check in the bank, how to manage over our financial issues, how to handle stocks and bonds and understand them more later in life. So these youth, they agreed that this is a need in their community. They don't know anything about managing money, and many of them are about to be adults and go into the university world. So what they did was they contacted a company called Nahji. Nahji is a company that's an expert in financial literacy. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an expert in financial literacy. They also contacted an insurance company. So they developed training material regarding financial services and insurance. They contacted the Ministry of Youth and they were able to, first of all, get the training from these professionals, develop a training kit, and they were able to train 12 youth from 12 municipalities in Jordan, this training
Wow.
material. And each of these 12 youth went back to their municipality and trained another 20 youth this material.
Oh, wow.
And then
Okay.
what we were able to do also, they were saying that a lot of the ways that information is relayed, it's very boring. So they developed a series of infographic videos about the topic of financial literacy and insurance. So infographic videos are a wonderful way of relaying information through cartoons, through sounds. They developed these videos, and these videos, over a very short period of time, have incurred over 6,000 views across social media platforms without any boosting methods. In order to do, so you're talking about over 100 youth that were able to get this material that was taught and developed by youth. And
Crazy.
uh, and these infographic videos are in Arabic language. It's very difficult to find current material on financial literacy and on insurance in the Arabic language. So they developed these set of videos, which is amazing and which is long lasting. And they applied for the fund. They applied for about $1,000 in order to launch this initiative themselves and pay for all the trainers and everything they needed. And what was interesting is that during this time, the coronavirus started happening, and we were worried how will we conduct our trainings with people in municipalities because we didn't know if they had internet access, if they had access to computers. But thank God, we worked with youth all across the municipalities, and it worked with Zoom and Skype and everything. So it was youth-led, youth-taught, and youth-developed.
That's honestly amazing. Like there's so much flexibility also when it comes to youth, and so much they have so much potential. It's amazing to hear how like they did these programs, they helped others as well, and it's kind of like the domino effect. Like they help their communities and so on. So they formed groups,
Absolutely.
and groups formed groups, etc. So that's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the community organizing methodology, is that you develop teams through TOT, they teach other teams, and the information trickles down that way.
So I feel like we got two questions. There's a question from Saad Al-Masri. He's asking you, is it possible to have a corporate partnership with Wasel to train a private sector's company's employees?
So, I mean, if Wasel would train private sector employees, if that's the question, Wasel is mostly targeted at working with youth, not with private sector employees. So mostly we work with youth development, but we have a lot of partnerships with different private sector and corporate entities, just like the insurance company that I just named, which helped us develop the training kit, just like the other financial literacy company that I mentioned, which helped us also develop the business kit. And also another partner was the Ministry of Youth, which gave us access to youth across all Jordanian municipalities. So definitely Wasel's model is a partnership model. And one advice, let me go ahead and say this, one advice for all startups out there, especially in the NGO world: try not to incur high overhead expenses in the first few years. And the best way of reducing the overhead expenses is through developing partnerships. Through developing partnerships with training, through developing partnerships where you can use their facilities, all kinds of partnerships. It's the best way to reduce overhead.
Costs.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
the way to be most effective. You know that saying that says master of all trades, jack of all trades, master of none? In Wasl, we don't want to be the master of all trades. We want to work on three specific areas, be focused in them, and master them. And anything that comes out of that scope, we would just develop partnerships in order to explore that further.
Yeah. So collaborations are so important, and they've been very successful for you, as you mentioned.
Definitely, definitely.
Interesting. So we got a question from Dareen, Mirza of
Okay.
mine. She was asking you, what inspires you the most?
Okay, what inspires me the most? What inspires me the most? I think different people around me inspire me the most, and Dareen is one of them. Dareen,
Wow.
by the way, is a walking buddy that I have, and Dareen is a life coach. So I think for me, what inspires me the most is interactions with people. So I wouldn't say one person or one entity or one particular thing inspires me the most, but I always want to leave each day better than the one that came. And interacting with different people, learning from different people, surrounding myself with people that are different than me inspires me the most. And every time I set a goal and reach that goal, it inspires me to set another one and another one. So I think it's very important for people to have purpose in life. And that's one thing we really try to drill with our youth. When you have purpose, you set goals. When you achieve goals, you're inspired daily. So that's another thing.
Yeah, that's definitely a beautiful way to put it. And of course, like people, they add different perspectives to your life each and every day. So if you're surrounded by the same people, you're not exactly going to grow. You got to diversify and learn things from different people and hear different perspectives and grow mentally and all
Absolutely.
these.
And you know what, Sarah, also, we mentioned one advice earlier about startups is reducing overhead through partnerships.
Yeah,
Another really good advice that I have is diversifying the talent that you have in your team. So I have a group of people working alongside me in Wasel, and each of us adds something unique to the team, and each of us has a set of skills that the other doesn't.
of course.
So it's very important to surround yourself with people that know things you don't. So that's
Right.
another is diversifying the skill set of your team. I think it's very important to do that as well.
Right. That makes sense. Also, like, as you mentioned, capitalizing on the team's strengths to ensure like the most effective outcome if you say.
Absolutely, absolutely, and each one of our team members to me is indispensable because each one of them provides something that I can't, just like I can provide something. It's just like
Yeah.
again, Russell's logo, a group of hands working together towards achieving a goal.
Right. The power of collaboration again. I love how you focus on that in your NGO.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's very important also to surround yourself with people that share similar values as you.
Of
So,
course. Yeah.
so you can share it's very important to be different in the skill set that you have as a team, but at your core, you must share the same values.
And same ethics of working, for example. Right.
Abs- Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
Okay. So as an NGO founder, what was the biggest challenge that you faced creating and bringing Wasl into life?
Okay, to be completely honest, first, the biggest challenge any NGO faces, and any startup in general, whether you're working in the private sector, public sector, whatever it is funding. So thankfully for Wasl, we were able to get people to believe in us quite quick and access funding. But the tiring part of an NGO is that you're continuously reliant on grants. So it takes so much of your time applying for proposals, developing budgets. It takes a lot of time. So grants, but one thing is that a lot of they call it social entrepreneurship now. They're relying on having a for-profit model that can sustain your NGO. So that's a different way of thinking now. People that are working in NGOs so that they don't waste all of their time applying for grants to get their programs moving forward. Many are now developing for-profit models that can assist with cash flow. But definitely one of the biggest hurdles of any startup is access to funding. And with for-profit models, you can access, you need maybe funding once, twice, three times. With a non-for-profit, you spend so much of your time applying for funding because each program has a start and has a finish. And when it finishes, it needs to start again. So that's one thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Totally understand that. But then again, like it's so important what you guys do. So
Absolutely.
that's
To tell you the truth, I mean, we have wonderful private sector partners. Shout out to Hikma Pharmaceuticals, shout out to Ittihad Bank, who believed in us from day one and continue to support our programs. So we definitely appreciate that partnership.
that's beautiful to hear. Um, so I know that a lot of people, generally speaking, who start their own businesses, initiatives, programs, companies, um, something comes out that's not expected, like something happens that is not foreseen, is not expected. Maybe it's something surprising, something they didn't really expect. Would you say you relate to that when it came to bringing your NGO into life? Was there something that was positive and unexpected that came out of it?
Absolutely. There's always the thing about startups, whatever they may be, is that they're based on surprises, positive surprises, and sometimes, a little sad surprise. But you have to be resilient when you have an NGO. But one example that comes to mind of a positive surprise. So the program شبك وبادر that I was telling you about, the school program,
Yeah.
as I mentioned, we go into development from different angles. It be social development, economic development, political development. But at the end of the day, what we really want to create is a group of people that can develop friendships, that can develop relationships, that can look at each other as people rather than objects that come from different socioeconomic backgrounds that can work together. Because at the end of the day, a society is a cohesive society. A society is made of people that are different, and that's what makes society great. And so during the mid-semester break, I was vacationing in the US, and I got messages from students from the private and public university schools that we deal with, and they were telling me that they were meeting in their mid-semester break to work on the upcoming project that they were going to launch in the second semester. And I hadn't asked them to do that in the mid-semester break. How wonderful is it that these two groups of people, like I said, that might have spent their entire life not meeting or not, working together, are now developing friendships and are now working towards the betterment of the community. So that to me made me the happiest that I was, that Wasel's program was able to bring together different people to work towards a common goal.
I mean, it's amazing. You're telling me people, they started like gathering together and they weren't even asked to do that. So it was just from their own time, like from their own desires, which is amazing. You know.
Absolutely, because they broke down these barriers, they broke down these preconceived notions, they lived in each other's backgrounds. This is
Right.
an entire year program where they meet 3 times a week. They learned together, they sat in each other's classrooms, they developed projects together. So, yes, I mean, it does develop, of course, it develops a relationship. And these people are now developing long-lasting relationships, even in other programs that we have in Wasel, which I'd like to talk about also as well in a bit.
That's amazing to hear, honestly. You can tell us more about the programs that you just want to talk about
Yeah,
if you want.
yeah. So there's the Citizenship Engagement Program, which is a very important program that I'm extremely passionate about. So in this program, we target youth from the 12 municipalities in Jordan, aged 18 to 28. We put them through a series of boot camp trainings regarding the Jordanian constitution, Jordanian labor law, King Abdullah discussion papers, and human rights boot camps. After they finish these series of trainings, we teach them how to write policy papers to advocate for changes in their communities. This policy paper is then shared with the Jordanian parliament, with the Jordanian Senate, as well as the Royal Hashemite Court. So you in this program have gotten different youth from all different municipalities in Jordan. Youth that really might not have met each other because of distance, if anything. They are engaged in this long-lasting program and they are advocating for changes in their communities. So a person in Irbid and the person in Zarqa and the person in Amman also will tend to realize, well, there are certain gaps in the system that we all face and want to fix, and they start to advocate for policy changes. And what's so amazing is that all these public sector, they were so collaborative. They were all very excited to hear from the youth. So it's a wonderful project. And you know what, Sarah, maybe we should do a poll and ask people, how many people know the Jordanian constitution? How many people know the Jordanian labor law? How many people know the King Abdullah discussion papers or Vision 2025? It's
Wow.
just like us as youth, we demand change. We should also do our part. We should also do our part. We should read our constitution. We should read our labor law. That way, when we go abroad, we can represent our country in the best way, and nobody can say anything about us because our laws, we know our regulations, we know the vision the country is headed in. And as somebody that has read all of these, I can tell you, with the energy of the youth that we have, I think that the future of Jordan is a great one.
Wow. That's amazing to hear. Honestly, I totally agree with what you said. It's so interesting. I never really thought about it in that way.
Absolutely, and it's so funny
Yeah.
because sometimes when I would have the Jordanian constitution, it's about a small book like this, and I would give it to youth, and they wouldn't even know that anything about it or their labor laws. How are you able to advocate for your rights, to fight for your rights, if you don't know what your labor laws are? You
Of
know,
course. Yeah.
if anything,
Yeah, yeah.
what are the human rights laws in Jordan? What advances are we making? You know what I mean? So.
Of course.
Yeah, and another program that I want to talk about is our شبك وابتكر program. So a lot of entrepreneurship programs out there, they focus on youth that already have business ideas, right? And they just need a little bit of funding, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. In Jordan, we have a 19% unemployment rate. In order to tackle the 19% unemployment rate, you need to focus on the youth that are unemployed and have no business idea. Each one of us, we know somebody that's lost in their life, that's sitting there not doing anything, right? These are
Yeah.
the people we need to focus on. So we tackle these people from all municipalities in Jordan. We bring them in, we put them through a series of programs. We teach them how to come up with an idea of a program or a project based on a need in their community, how to write a proposal, how to do a feasibility study, what are the legal laws and ramifications that they need to know about. Then we connect them with different public sector and private sector entities. We connect them with the Investment Commission. We connect them with the Chamber of Industry and Chamber of Commerce. We connect them with different banks. After they
Wow.
complete all this training and develop a business kit which has their idea, their pitch deck, their feasibility study, and all that, we take them to 6 incubators where they can pitch their ideas and get feedback on them. From the last batch of youth that we had, 5 youth were able to get incubated by business incubators, which is
Wow.
something that we are very, very proud of. And this is what I'm saying when I talk about the mutual learning. So these youth now are all learning from each other. They don't just learn from our programs, from how to do a feasibility study, how to do a proposal. They learn from each other and they start giving advice to each other. They start growing together and developing friendships. So it's amazing, yeah.
That's incredible, honestly. I didn't even know something like that existed here. It's crazy how you start teaching them all these things from scratch and then they develop and then they get their funding and they grow a lot in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of the public sector and private sector that we've approached have been very collaborative, giving long workshops, 3 to 4 hour workshops. They've been
Wow.
very patient and they really want our youth to succeed. So I have to say that.
It's amazing. So from all of your experience so far with Wasel, what have you learned? What are like a few pinpoints that you can speak about?
Absolutely. So, one advice that I can give is that most of the things that you worry about will never happen. So, don't worry. That's, a lot of the times, in our life, we sit here and we spend so much time worrying, but so much of what we worry about won't happen. So, don't worry. Another piece of advice that is very, it touches home with me is that know that everything is happening to you. Sorry, for you, not to you. Again, let me repeat that. Know that everything is happening for you, not to you. So everything that happens to you, whether it be good or bad, it happens to develop you into the vision that you foresee yourself to be. So that's another piece of advice. But there's a quote that I really like, which kind of summarizes why we do what we do at Wasl. And it says, diversity is being asked to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. And that's what we aim to do.
What a beautiful pieces of advice, really. It's like everything that happens for you, it depends on how you decide to react with it as well, and how you decide to react to everything that happens. You could take it to your advantage and try to learn from it as an opportunity as well.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a favorite book?
Absolutely, yes. I do have a favorite book, and not just a favorite book. For anybody that knows me, they know that this book I talk about consistently everywhere. It's called Practical Economics, Economic Transformation and Government Reform in Georgia from 2004 to 2012. This book was written by the Prime Minister of Georgia, the previous Prime Minister of Georgia, Nika Gulari. And this book, it focuses on how Georgia was able to transform economically drastically from 2004 to 2012, and about all the strategies that this prime minister used to develop different aspects in the healthcare system, in the energy system, everywhere. And it gives you hope that wherever we're at as a country, there's always hope. We can improve. Other countries have done so. And I think, the best way to learn how to do so is to learn from areas in the region, how they were able to develop, how they were able to grow. And this is a great book that shows you how to do that. And it gives you a lot of hope. So I recommend that book. It's written by the previous Prime Minister of Georgia. It's called Practical Economics, Economic Transformation and Government Reform in Georgia.
Wow, definitely sounds so inspiring, because you see how they managed to really overcome all these social struggles, and it gives you hope that any country that's struggling can really overcome that.
Definitely.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that you write newspaper articles in the opinion section. So can you tell me, like, is there one article that really stood out for you? Is there one article that you'd really like to talk about, something that resonates with you?
So yes, so thank you for sharing that. So most of my articles, they focus on political development and economic development in Jordan. All of them, I love all of them, but I would encourage everybody to read the last article that I wrote in the Jordan Times, and it's called A Way Forward. And this article, it talks about how we can move forward as a country due to the coronavirus pandemic, and what are the areas of opportunities that we can build on. So that's an important article that's very relevant to what we're going through right now. So I would encourage everybody to read that.
Can you tell us again about the name?
A Way Forward.
A Way Forward. Okay.
A Way
At the
Forward.
Jordan Times?
In the Jordan Times, yes.
Okay, perfect. So we have a question
Okay.
from Samir. He's asking any advice for teenagers.
Any advice for teenagers? So yes, the group that we work with in Shabbik Wabadir are teenagers. One advice that I have to give is under promise and over deliver. At the end of the day, what you have in your life is the word that you give to somebody. So when a session starts at 10 a.m., show up at 10 a.m. When you say you're going to give a piece, an assignment by a certain date, give it by a certain date. Always, always under promise, over deliver. I would rather one of my students give me something 2 weeks from now, but tell me that they will give it to me 2 weeks from now and stick to their word, rather than give it to me, tell me that they're going to give it to me tomorrow and give it 2 weeks in advance. So one thing I always say is under promise, over deliver. And because at the end of the day, what makes a person successful is these characteristics. Knowledge, anybody can gain knowledge. You can read a book about economics. You can read a book about political transformation. But these ethical characteristics are what will make you successful. So yes, this is the advice that I give.
So really, you're saying living by your word. Say something and abide by it.
Living by your word, absolutely. And and this is what they used to. And another one is, on time is late. No, wait. There was a piece of advice that they used to give us always in the company that I used to work with. They used to say, early is on time is late. This is
So
another
a few minutes early, that's on time.
early is on time is late. It's another piece of advice. You know, these they may seem like simple pieces of advice, but they trickle down into so many things, you know, like
Yeah,
investment. When you look at investment opportunities, what does an investor want? He wants to invest in a country where people are reliable, where people stand to their word, where people do what they're said, what they say they will do, where people, you know, all these things. So these things, they're small pieces of advice, but they trickle down. They trickle down economically, they trickle down politically, they trickle down. So yes, these are the pieces of advice I give.
that is so important. Thank you so much for sharing this. So would
And
you
you know
say,
what,
yeah,
Sarah, one thing also I want to say is that don't waste your life not figuring out your purpose. If you don't know what you want to do, you have to surround yourself by people. Try to surround yourself by different people. Research. It's a waste of time to live your life not knowing what you want. And if you don't know what you want, it won't magically appear. You
yeah,
have to invest the time to figure it out so you can live a plentiful and fulfilling life. That's
right.
another.
Living a life led by purpose and meaning is so important, and I feel like so many people are still trying to figure that out. You know, it's not easy, and I believe that we also talked about this during our last episode with Dareen about like really also asking yourself a couple of questions that might guide you into what you may like, what your interests might be. So really exploring more and more things until you get there. That's so important, and thank you for speaking about this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I'm trying to see if we have any other questions because we are reaching towards the end of this episode. Is there something else you'd like to add before?
Uh, you know, I would just encourage anybody that's within the age range that we talked about, that we work with in Wasel, to go check out our social media pages, to check out our website, and to join any upcoming programs that we have. We're about to recruit for our Shabbik Ticket program, the entrepreneurship program that we were talking about. It's about to start in June. So if anybody is interested, you know, we would love for them to contact us and join this upcoming cohort.
That's amazing. Um, we have you already. I'm following you, and I'm gonna check out the articles. That's really so interesting. Something I don't exactly read about, but thank you really for everything you've shared, all the beautiful pieces of advices that you just provided to us. And I want to thank everyone who joined tonight. It was definitely a great, interesting, different session. And you're a wonderful person, really. Thank you for doing this to our country. I'm sorry, guys. I think that something happened with the connection and it got disconnected. I couldn't hear what happened at the very end, but thank you all for joining. And stay tuned for our next episode. It's going to be on Monday. And we'd love for you to join us. Have a good night, everyone.